We are live. We are live. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to episode 29 of Self-Approved Live. My name is Kat Trimarco, and today I have a special guest, Mandy Ross. Welcome to the show, Mandy. So excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kat. I'm really feeling pumped for this episode with you tonight.
Yay, me too. I'm going to read your bio for everyone, officially introduce you and all your brilliance and genius. You have so many hats you wear, and I love all of them. So just to give everybody who tunes in live and anyone if you're catching the replay. So Mandy Ross is a catalyst for positive change, international TV and media personality, speaker, writer, coach, and life cheerleader, whose purpose is to help individuals step into their most authentic, productive, aligned, and loving selves. As a YouTuber and digital creator, she produces content that helps others live their healthiest and happiest lives with a focus on fitness, food, and lifestyle. She's also the creator and host of Pave Your Paradise podcast. I'll have to drop a link for that for others in the comments later, which is created to share messages and conversations that help individuals take their relationships, health, business, and life to the next level, and a place to create the highest version of themselves so they can pave their personal path to paradise. Love that. Her inspired living philosophy can be found in her hosting, interviewing, writing, speaking, classes, workshop, events, and seminars, online community content, social media, influencing and digital strategy, media appearances, and one-on-one coaching sessions. She loves the outdoors, working out, cooking delicious and nutritious meals, spending time with family and friends, and making people smile so big their faces hurt. You can find Mandy, obviously, by clicking. You should see her here. You can click on follow her on social media. I'll drop a link for the podcast after the show in the comments so you guys can check out Pave Your Paradise podcast. And we can also link you to her on Instagram, which is Mandy J. Ross. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Every time you and I connect, I just feel like we dive so much deeper. And I love every single time that we get to share with one another. So to have everybody joining us tonight, this is just extra love.
Yeah, totally. You do so many things, and you bring your light to the world in so many different forms. I want to know, share with us a bit about how you started the work you do in terms of your content creation and your coaching and the programs and the workshops. Were you just doing media personality before and then you transitioned to that, or what was the transformation or the catalyst to start doing transformational work with other people?
Yeah, great question, Kat. I get asked this often, and the two worlds I kind of look at are so married in my life at this point. Mm-hmm. And to answer your question, my professional background started when I went to school for journalism. I studied broadcast and print, and I was lucky enough, the last year that I was in journalism school, I was introduced to digital online journalism because everyone in the industry knew that's the direction it was going in. So at that time, I fell in love with this idea and concept of basically becoming a backpack journalist, creating blogs and vlogs. And I would say probably in my late teens, I developed a really strong passion for self-development in general. And that started with reading self-development books. And during my teen years, I also had an eating disorder. And that really, I think, was probably the biggest catalyst of change in my life when it came to diet and nutrition, and really becoming hyper-focused on how to treat my body in a respectful, healthy way. So that's where that kind of stemmed, those seeds were kind of planted in my late teens. Now, going back to when I graduated from journalism school, primarily the majority of jobs that I would take on were in fashion and entertainment and topics that surrounded lifestyle and that kind of thing. And I love that. Don't get me wrong. I really love that. That was kind of the tip of the iceberg, though. I often found myself in interviews wanting to go so much deeper with people and really not just talk about, I don't want to say surface level things, but kind of fluff content. It was much more me wanting to assess how they achieve their success and all the hurdles they had to overcome and the transformations they had gone through in their lives. So for me, it kind of was a work in progress, and I was trying to figure out like exactly what I wanted that to look like in terms of a career. Now, simultaneously, I really got involved with things like yoga and meditation. And as I was continuously developing, I found myself becoming more and more attracted to things like coaching and workshops. And I was partaking in all of those, hadn't really pictured myself facilitating that stuff at that point because I was so into the entertainment industry at that time in my life. But I also found that people around me started to gravitate towards me, as you say, this light. It was kind of like I was attracting so many people who were asking me constantly about, self-development, nutrition, meditation, yoga, all these things that I was personally interested in. And this is a really beautiful thing that I feel like you and I can touch on, because you and I are so like living in our authenticity. And at the time, I felt like there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect between what I was doing and how I was showing up in the world. And I kid you not, like, I'll never forget the first time I actually shared on my social media. I think it was like a yoga post. And for me, I felt like, whoa, I'm going so far out there compared to all the entertainment, celebrity interview stuff and fashion and entertainment things I was putting out as far as content was concerned. So it felt really liberating, though. I felt like for the first time, I was actually sharing a whole other side of myself that I had never let anyone see before. Yeah. So that was a kind of defining moment and the feedback that I got was amazing. People really resonated with seeing that other side of me.
Let's talk about that for a second, because you're absolutely right. I experienced that as well. For me, it was more like the spiritual aspect of things, and it felt like I was like opening this dark closet of my soul to actually start speaking that authentically online. And I want to touch on that because I feel that a lot of people experience that, and a lot of people go through that on some layer of actually being who and what they feel like as that deepest soul authentic truth inside. And that fear is real. That fear of what are other people going to think, especially when everyone's used to seeing you in a certain light, or used to like you showing up in a certain way. For me, that was like, I used to be drunk. Like I was drunk and high all the time. I was known as the party girl. And then transitioning into all this same thing, like personal development and the depth and the exploring my inner world and starting to talk about that. And it was like that fear of like, people don't know, it's like bearing your soul to someone. So I want to, like, what would you say to anyone who's here listening live, or anyone catching the replay, for their own version of that, whether it's on social media, or maybe it's like at family dinner, wanting to speak more from their true self, their authentic self, but being scared of like what their family's going to think about them. Like what like nugget or tidbit or inner work would you give someone just to help them if they're in that situation?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think one of my best pieces of advice that I always say, whether it's a client or a friend or someone who really I can see struggling with stepping into their, authentic self. And this is coming from someone with a big personality, I will say. Like I'm definitely not a shy person when it comes to like how I feel or expressing myself. And, I can only draw from my own experience. So when it comes to the fact that I've been in the media for a number of years now, I think that's something I still to this day struggle with. And I think that's a really important thing to put out there. It's not like it ever goes away. It's not like you ever just go 100%. Like everyone has insecurities. Everyone feels judged to some degree in their lives. I think one of my best piece of advice would be start with baby steps. Start by doing things. Maybe it means you sharing a little bit about yourself. Maybe it starts with strangers, maybe you join a group online. Let's say if it's digital, maybe you join a group online and you start sharing anonymously, but you just start like releasing that to somebody. Maybe it's striking up a conversation at the grocery store with someone who you don't know, but just sharing a little bit more of who you feel like authentically. And I really, really am such a believer in really tuning into how you feel, like how you feel in your gut, how you feel in your heart space. I know you're all for this, girl, but It's really about tuning into how you feel. And I still, to this day, like catch myself in moments where I'm like literally taking myself through that process of like, do I really feel like I'm fully stepping into my full power, my full authentic Mandy self? Or do I feel like right now it's out of alignment? Like, does this really feel like something that's really resonant within myself? Or am I like, is my intention to try and please something externally? I think that's a question you have to continuously ask yourself. And so when you're talking about like say family dinners or people that know you, I often find a lot of times, I don't know if you're the same way, you could probably talk on this, but I often find it's harder to say the things to the people who know you the most at times, or to show certain sides of yourself because you had that intimacy developed and you feel most judged by those who you had that vulnerability with the most.
Yeah.
You know
oh my God. You touched on so many good points. I experienced that as well. And I think it's that those people have an expectation. They see you in a certain identity, and that's the way they see you. So when you start changing or start transforming and start coming more into that authentic self, it's like it can be uncomfortable for the people who know you a certain way. But I love what you said, and I just want to like highlight this and mirror this because I thought it was so profound. It is a layered process, like the authentic self and living in that truth, because we're always expanding. Yes. So it's not like, oh, I'm my authentic self and then boom, like it's just easy to express all the time. I think it does get easier and easier, but it's like our soul, our true self is always expanding. So there's always like another edge. There's always another layer. There's always another like coming out even more, expanding even more. And I feel that process gets easier over time. But yeah, I think it's easy to look at people who, like if people look at women like us who are showing up online and out there and expressive, and it's like there's still always an edge of that honoring of truth and dialing into alignment, which was the other profound point that you said that I wanted to highlight of that alignment isn't just like a one-time thing either. It really is like for me anyways, it's like a moment. It's a moment to moment, moment to moment. Yeah. Of like, does this feel right? Okay. Does this feel right? And that it's okay to be out of alignment. Like it's okay to have experiences that aren't aligned, because how do we know? It's kind of like if you don't go on a date with someone that's not for you, how do you ever know who is aligned, and that person that really sparks your heart and sparks your soul? And I feel that, I just feel those few things you said were so powerful and so important for anyone to hear, to know that it's okay. And that's part of the journey of like fine tuning and dialing in. And how do we know what we want if we don't know what we don't want first, and being gentle and compassionate in the experiencing of what we don't want to be able to dial it in. So important.
Oh my goodness. You just brought up so many points I want to chat about now. So I want everyone out there listening and watching right now to know, when I was a teenager, I honestly struggled so much with wanting to present a certain image and like having that peer pressure in high school and wanting to be a perfectionist and all of those things, those limiting beliefs we talk about, and I just remember caring so much what other people thought of me, it like to the point where it was debilitating, to be very honest with you. And, the teenage years are often so hard for everybody because you're going through so many changes physically, emotionally, mentally, all these things. And for me, like it was such a struggle. I really, really, really struggled with caring what other people thought of me, to a point where I just got so sick of the way I was feeling inside. I finally was like, I just came to a point where I kind of just went, bleep this. I'm going to be me. And if people like it, great. If they don't, then they're not my people. And it was such a profound time in my life when I made the decision. And when you stop caring, and again, we all have times, and I can attest to this, I still have days where someone might say something or do something, and then I catch myself in a like questioning myself, and then I go, what are you doing? Like, so that still happens to this day, as confident and as sure of myself as I am. And I know you are the same, in being really like strong in who you are, what you believe in, and just being a really strong female force on this planet. But back then, I think, yeah, I got to a mental state where I was like, you know what? I am literally imprisoning myself by what I'm thinking other people are thinking about me. And
that's key.
Yeah, that just didn't make sense to me anymore. And how liberating of a feeling it is when you stop allowing other people the power to make you feel a certain way. That is such a liberating feeling. And then you find yourself, when you can take that element of your life away and really just know who you are, know what you want. All the external validation does not mean anything to you to the most degree anymore. That allows you to live so liberating in every area of your life.
Yeah. So what do you do nowadays if you notice that feeling creeping up? Like if you're in a new experience or with new people and you feel that bit of, oh, what are they thinking of me? Or like, how do you shift that present day?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I don't know anyone that does not deal with some sort of questioning of themselves or insecurity. I mean, it's very human nature. I think it's grown into a process of basically sitting with myself in silence, really, and tuning out. Like, as much as it sounds like, when I feel things, I feel them very intensely. I'm an empath, and I get hypersensitive sometimes to energies around me. So I have to be really careful, and I have to make sure that I'm trying to live as consciously as possible and just being in the present moment. And when I do that, I have to just really dig deep within and remind myself that, Mandy, like, you know who you are. And no matter what, like, I have to always ask, what is my intention? Like, am I a nice human being? What is my intentionality in my day-to-day life? Do I have a pure heart? Am I a kind soul? And I keep reminding myself, it's almost like I have a mental tab that I can turn to at all times, where I go, okay, wait a sec. I'm catching myself in one of these moments, and this is just a story I'm telling myself. Like, this isn't the real truth. I'm catching myself feeling vulnerable, feeling less than, and I know that's a low vibration. So in order to get my state back up, there's a number of things that I do, from the aspect of, how do I remind myself of who I am? That's just like keeping kind of a mental database of all my accomplishments. And I don't mean externally, I mean just like personal, internal validation for myself of why I know that I love me and I'm a good person. Like, that comes from within. And then there are external things that I do to just change my state of being, whether that's, high vibes music, or meditating, or even like surrounding myself with just people. Sometimes you need someone to just in your life to be like, hey, you know what? I need a hug. Can I just have a hug? And like, have that, So whatever I'm feeling, again, like you said before, it's kind of present moment. It depends on like why I'm feeling that way in that exact moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You said two things that really stood out to me. And one is that what we think people are thinking, because that's so key. It's like anytime we even think someone's judging us, it's like, I have a core belief that, I mean, maybe they are and maybe they aren't. For sure, there's people maybe judging us all the time. I don't know. But it's like our experience. It's like we're in charge of our experience. If we're perceiving that person as judging us, I always see it as, for me, it's like, oh, that's a mirror for something I have going on inside. That's like something trying to get my attention to an aspect of myself that I get to, I don't really use the word heal, but love, like love. It's like, oh, if I'm projecting that onto someone, it's a fear that I have, and maybe they are really judging me, but it's like, if it's bothering me, it's touching on something that is present in me. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, I need to clear this. Which is an interesting conversation, because I had an experience earlier today, and I was at the gym, and there was this older man. and he was on the machine beside me, and he couldn't figure out how to use it. It was like a seated calf raise machine, and he was trying to figure out how to use it. And so I stopped my squats to help him. And I helped him take the plates off. He's like, it's too heavy, I don't know. And I was like, well, there's huge plates. Like, let's take these plates off and just do it without the weights. But then it got really interesting, because then he says to me, he says, can I ask you something? And I could feel like the energy of even that question was like, this is not going down a road that feels good to me. Like, I could instantly feel that. And I kind of paused, and he just continued anyways. And he said, you're so beautiful. Why do you put that on your skin? And like pointed to my tattoos. Yeah, it was incredible. Like, I just stopped, and I took a beat, and I took a moment, and I thought, how do I want to deal with this? Like, what energy do I want to bring to this? Like, how do I want to bring this conversation to completion? Like, do I want this to be a teaching moment for this person? Do I want to just walk away? Like, I really actually stopped and like kind of saw all the avenues of like where I could go with it. And I said, this is my form of self-expression. This feels like me being true to my heart, to my soul in external expression. And he didn't really get it. And he kind of asked again, yeah, but why? Like, but why? And I kind of just said it again. And then I just completed the conversation and walked away. And it was almost this feeling of there's no need to over explain. It's like within over explanation kind of kills my vibe. Totally. And at the same time, I was just a little bit baffled that people feel the need to say things like that. Like, I would never say to anybody, like,
what planet are you from? I come from like planet kindness.
Yeah.
Like, how do you like, I know, I understand. But I mean, yeah. Can I touch on that?
Yeah, please do.
So, I mean, my question too, like, so in that moment that he asked, was there any part of you at any time during that, I know it happens momentarily, but like during that process, were you at any time questioning for a minute? Like, did you go back to a place of insecurity at all?
No, not even for a second.
Oh, that's
my body and my image, like my visual image. And it was not always this way. Like, I've done a lot of healing around this and a lot of rewiring around this, is like one area that like I can't be touched, I don't think, in terms of insecurity. Because even if when I gain a bit of weight and I lose a bit of weight, or like I'm fine not having makeup on, you see it, like I'll come on Facebook Live and do live streams with no makeup on. It's really an area that I feel rock solid and secure in. With that being said, in the past, I've shared this a lot publicly, like I had dated a few people who had made comments negatively about my tattoos and my image, and it did create that questioning internally. And now I'm like, I think I'm gorgeous. I think I'm beautiful. I love myself. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a majestic being. Like,
goddess.
I was like, this adds to the beauty. Like, I am colorful, and like, there's not a shred of that in that area for me anymore, which I think was why it was just like like interesting conversation, or interesting that happened. I don't know what the universal or cosmic kind of reason was for that, because I do believe that everything comes to us for a reason, but maybe it was just to
reiterate that you are so in your authentic self. Like, maybe I believe that sometimes you are just sent reminders from God that you are living in your truth, and you should be proud of yourself, and you are a love being. And there are people who, like, one thing that my dad always says, and bless his heart, like, I'm very close to my mom and my dad, and they're both such wise souls. And, one thing my father's always said to me, and it's such a simple statement, but it's profoundly changed my life, is just think of the source. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to, and it's never about being in a hierarchy or someone's higher or lower. You literally just have to ask yourself, where is this person coming from? And like, you just have to sometimes give people the benefit of the doubt that maybe they're not as educated. Maybe they are having a bad day. Maybe there's X, Y, and Z going on in their lives. And, you know, not that that is any justification for any sort of mistreatment or any sort of negativity towards anyone else or any other being or thing on this planet. But at the same time, if you get to that point, I think you do become, like you kind of have that shield in not a negative way, but you kind of have like, I'm indestructible by any person that kind of approaches me like that. And that's where we go back to just knowing yourself really well. You have to know yourself and be grounded in who you are in order to even have that mental conversation where you go, you know what, this person, what they're saying is literally whack. And, you know, there's no, I don't even, like you did, I don't even question who I am now because I know that I am who I am. And it doesn't matter what is said or what is done towards me. I know that I'm me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think that's powerful for anyone listening to hear that. Yeah. Cause that muscle takes developing, but
I struggled to this day. Like and I always go back to one of my favorite sayings is that we are a work in progress, but we can still be a masterpiece at the same time. Like I feel like every day I wake up and I do view myself as a masterpiece. I think of all the beautiful things I do. I think of all the beautiful things I've done. I think of all the struggles I've had, everything I've overcome. And I constantly remind myself of the journey and also like my present self. And I'm a very proud woman. I'm, you know, trying to live my best loving self. And I think it's really important to bring up the fact that you really have to get to a point where you do love yourself, you know, no matter what. And it's not about perfection. Like I am I always call myself a recovering perfectionist because growing up, I always wanted to, like, it always started with my parents. I always wanted to impress my parents and make them proud. And I did, and I still do to this day, you know, even 2 days ago, my dad wrote, you know, Mandy, you make me proud every day. And their approval was so important to me growing up. And, you know, to this day, I still do care about, you know, making my family happy or making my parents proud, but it's not the same kind of proud. And I think that's a really important thing to note. And even my, like, you know, my peers and all that, it's great to get validation, but if you don't have internal personal validation, if you don't stick up for yourself, if you're not proud and loving who you are genuinely, all that other bleep will never, ever, ever fill that void, ever.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Such a valuable conversation. So valuable. I want to shift gears a bit and move into Mandy just shared with me like 2 minutes before we went live. Is it the new moon today or the full moon?
I believe it's a new moon tonight. I love the astrology stuff. So I'm all about like new moons and setting.
Tell us about it. Fill me in, because I don't. That's one area that I'm not super tapped. Maybe I am energetically and I just don't know it, but I'm not super tapped into knowing what's going on in the astrological realms. Tell us what the new moon is about.
Okay, so I'm just going to say, first off, I am definitely no expert. And when it comes to astrology or, you know, planetary things or moon cycles and whatnot, I definitely would not consider myself an expert, but I do think it's fun to follow along. And whether it is true or not, I do love the thought that new moons are really good for intention setting. And when it's a full moon, especially, you know, the energy is a little heightened, we'll say, you know, with people. And I often do find that people tend to act a little bit differently around new moons. Maybe it's just something I'm picking up on. But I mean, I'm staring at my vision board literally like right in front of me. So this is fun to talk about right now. But regardless of the moon cycles or not, it being 2020, I think this was actually the first year I made an actual vision board. I think most people, my personality type and just the fact that I'm really into like setting goals and I'm a planner and I like to project, my quarters of the year. This was actually the first year I sat down and literally with magazines made a vision board. And I'm so happy I did, because it really is something that now I get to look at every single day as a reminder visually and visualize my dreams coming true. Now, I think there's lots of different ways people can do this. They don't literally have to make that vision board, but another big element in my life is journaling. And I think it's important to, when you write something out, I think that's your way of putting out to God, to the universe, to a higher power, really validating for yourself and having a record of what you want. And I find like I keep all my journals from my past and I look through them to see my growth. And I'm a huge believer that what you don't measure, you can't grow in. So if you're not constantly refining what your goals are, you're kind of just going through life lost.
So is that your daily process for connecting with your dreams, with your visions, with your goals, is writing them down and looking at your vision board?
Right now, okay, like if we get into master morning routine, that's like a whole topic I'm super passionate about. I think everyone needs to develop their own little morning routine, whatever that looks like. Currently, mine has a few different elements that have changed over the years. But yeah, I love to look at my vision board in the morning. I journal every single morning religiously. In my journal, I have different like journal headings. One thing that's huge for me, the very, very first thing I do when I wake up is I have one affirmation that I've developed that is surrounding, I say to myself, I am healthier, wealthier, happier, wiser, stronger, and more fit than I was yesterday. And I think that is like the first thing that comes into my head, because it's like, I don't care what, again, going back to not caring what either other people think of me or what my past is to a certain degree. It's like, I just want to be the best version of myself today. And I want to just be better than my yesterday self. That's really the intention in that. Now, from there, I like to say 3 prayers of gratitude. I don't mind being vulnerable and sharing. I always just thank God every single morning. And I know it's like, people can say, well, that might sound, typical or whatnot, but I really do believe that attitude, the attitude of gratitude is what really breeds abundance into your life. Yeah. If you want more of anything in your life, whether it's love, whether it's money, whether it's whatever your thing is, you need to be thankful for the blessings that already exist. If you are not thankful for what you have in the here and now, it's impossible to expand that, because you're already operating in a scarcity mindset.
Or you get to the thing and it doesn't feel good. It's like you scramble, get to the end goal, get to that elusive journey that's like, or the elusive end point that's like, oh, this was supposed to make me happy. I was actually talking about this in one of my group programs today, and it's unfulfilling. So I don't think that's super important for people to hear, because I think even what I think is important to note with that is that it's easy to understand a concept. It's easy to, like, the internet, with the amount of information and education and knowledge available on the interwebs these days, it's easy to find out what to do. It's actually doing it that is
the acquiring of information is always the easy part. It's the application.
Yeah. And integrating.
Action. Taking action. And like, even with what I just said to you, great, I made a vision board. Great, I journal every morning. Great, I say these prayers of gratitude. I have my affirmations. But if I don't take action every day in my life, none of it really matters. And I'm just saying that. Like, I think, and I'd love to just share this with you, because I had this conversation not too long ago with a good friend, and I was talking to him about this concept of, like, people often ask me about manifestation. They're like, Mandy, you seem like you're like a magical manifester. And that's great. But the reality is manifesting is not a matter of magic. It's a mindset. It's literally a mindset mixed with magic. So the two have to go hand in hand. Yes, the magical part of the process is envisioning it, is putting it out to God and the universe, is, having this expansive mind and like that beautiful fantasy of what you'd like to acquire and attract into your life. But bottom line is, if you're not taking the action steps to go along with that in your life, you're not going to get it. It's not a matter of just sitting there and wishing and waiting are the same thing.
Yeah, I think there's confusion for people around that. I would have to say I am more on the opposite side of don't take action that's not aligned. I think that people don't fully understand how energy, this is where Kat will nerd, I could nerd out for like weeks. This is a core concept of what I teach, is that people don't, it's understanding that energy turns into form. So it's like, if we're taking, it's not, in my experience, it's not action that gets me end results. And I have played with this 110 times. I think it's part of my life purpose. I know it's part of my life purpose to teach the more mystical realm, because the taking action can move energy for people. It moves their belief. It moves the idea that they're moving forward. But it's not just action that.
No, that's why I always make that, like, it's not one, it's not just one, it's not just the other. You know what I mean? Like, not just a matter, like, if you like, and this is the perfect example. If I'm just sitting here at my desk and I just think about what I want, and then, like, I just stay here, and the perfect example is, like, say you want to meet somebody, right? If I keep going, well, I want to meet the perfect mate. I want to meet the perfect mate. If you're sitting at home and you're just sitting there and you're not doing like bleep all, the perfect mate is not just going to show up and knock on your door and go, hey, Mandy, let's be together. I'm the perfect mate for you. Like, there has to be a certain degree of, and I mean, you and I literally could talk about this for so long, because I know that you're really into self-development. So am I. There's so many different layers to this. It's not as simple as going like it's one, the other. It's neither, both. There's so much there. What I think is important is it's taking intentional, strategic action in your life. You know, it's not just, when I say take action, it's not just go and do something to be busy, because anybody can go and do that. It's literally putting that intentionality out with your heart and your soul and your energy, and putting that vibration out. But at the same time, I think it's important to also state that, like, sitting there and doing literally nothing as well is not going to get you the life you want.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we could go deep on this. For me, my process is it's taking inspired action. It's taking action that is based on an intuitive impulse. And for me, I ride the energy more than I ride the action plan, which I think is a healer.
I know I can feel that you and I are healers. Like, it's a matter of, like, for example, when I say, like, I write things in my journal, I intuitively, and this is a great segue into, like, just living in alignment. It's like asking yourself, whether it's your diet, whether it's the people you surround yourself with, whether it's the work that you do, whether it's the activities, the behaviors, like everything that you are doing in your life. And I wrote this to you about, like, chatting about this detox lifestyle concept. You have to continuously, and this is great too, because, like, what I was about to say is you have to continuously refine your life in order to be in alignment, because you're never staying in the same state at all times. You're evolving your lifestyle, the people in your life, all these things are going to continually evolve if you are tuning into you. Now, if you're avoiding detoxing your life, chances are you're going to get to a wall where you feel so out of alignment that something literally, like, hits you so hard that
tell us about the detox, your method with the detox lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did a post on this a while back. Just, you know, I think it's so prevalent in our society today to talk about, like, detoxing your body. But to me, it's like, why don't you take that concept and next level that to, again, the people you're surrounding yourself with, the content you're consuming, the activities you're doing, like every single part of your life. Let's just, if we had to, like, do it into big areas. So relationships, health, your job, and, you know, just your day-to-day lifestyle. Are you doing the necessary actions? Are you taking the necessary steps externally, but internally, are you having the best mindset? Are you healthy in body, mind, and spirit in order for you to continuously evolve into the highest version of yourself? And, like, last year for me, and this is being completely transparent, there were people, there were situations, there were activities, there were even mindsets I literally had to let go of in order to progress. And that was very difficult. There were a lot of big changes in my life. There were a lot of big decisions I had to make, but I knew that this is a beautiful, beautiful theme, I think, of letting go in last year of my life. And it really stemmed from this idea and this beautiful metaphor. You have to let go of what you're holding on to, like literally in your hand. Picture holding on to something. Like, there we go. Picture holding on to something. If you have something here, if you're holding on to this, you have to let this go if you want to reach for anything higher. Like,
create space.
Pardon?
Creating space.
Yeah, you have to create that space. It sucks and it hurts sometimes and it's not comfortable, but we don't grow in our comfort zone. And I know that's a very common saying, but it's true. Like, I had to get hella uncomfortable in certain parts of my life last year in order to evolve.
What would you say to someone who's starting to look around, like starting to become more conscious or recognizing that like they're hearing this and they're like, I do need to create space in my life for the things I want to come in. And they're starting to look around and notice at like the detox lifestyle. What do I need to, what is it now aligned for me to let go of? What is it now aligned for me to move away from? Whether it's an external, like a certain behavior or a certain person maybe, or an internal, the mindset piece. Because what you said, I thought was like, ooh, that was like ding for me, is because I believe that sometimes that is more challenging, because it's one thing to go like, but I'm going to relate this to, because I've been sober for 6 years. It's one thing to go, I shouldn't snort that line of cocaine off the back of the bar toilet anymore. That's destructive to my life. I'm going to put that down. But it's another thing altogether to go internal. And this is the real work, and go, this mindset needs to go. Like the way I relate with myself in this area, or the way that I think in this particular area needs to go. And that can be that's real work, but even more so than behavior, I think, because it's one thing, like we can force ourselves to like, I know that's not good for me, I'm going to stop it. But the internal space can sometimes feel less obvious to people, I think. Like if there's a negative thought or something that we're clinging on to, or a negative emotion, to detox that. So, I mean, in both scenarios, if it's an external or an internal, and someone's hearing this and they're starting to go like, yeah, I need to do like a detox so that I can create space to welcome in my dreams and my desires and the things I've been asking for, where would you recommend they start in doing that and making that shift, and how to move through the uncomfortability that comes up when we let go of the things that feel familiar, even if they're not serving our highest?
Kat, thank you for asking this question, because last year was such a transition of having to do this continuously. Like it was as though God and the universe was like, I'm not backing down on you. So what I often did, and I'm going to nutshell it, but then I'm going to go deeper. The number one thing that you absolutely 100% without a doubt need to do is ask yourself, how do I feel? How do I feel? Most important question that you can ask yourself in any scenario, whether again, you're around somebody, you're having some sort of trigger within and you're saying a story to yourself. I'd say more than anything, how do you feel? How do you get to a space where you actually genuinely, authentically know how you feel? You have to become aware.
Yeah.
You have to start becoming aware of the thoughts that are in your head. People often see me and they ask me, how are you so positive? Or how are you so like optimistic? Don't bad things happen to you? Or like, are you living some perfect life? Heck no, I don't live a perfect life. There's lots of stuff that happens to me. I'm aware of the thoughts that start to pour in continuously every single day. And I ask myself, like, how am I really feeling in this moment? And that can only, even being conscious of the thoughts that are going on in your head, only happens when you become in an aware state of being. If you're going through life and you're lost, or you're constantly like tuned out to things and you're not really tuning in with yourself, then it's very easy to become misaligned. And so, and another big element of the last part of my journey, I would say, is asking myself, like, do I need to heal? Do I need to feel this in order to heal it? You know, like, you got to feel it in order to heal it. There's no way of going around healing something, whether it's internally or externally. And another form of healing is cutting things off or letting go. But
so that would be the place that you would recommend people start, is going,
you got to tune in. And I don't want to sit here and say, like, you know, sit in lotus position, that's going to make you a more aware or more evolved person. Personally speaking, from my, you know, journey, I could say meditation has really helped me to tap into being more self-aware, because when you're alone with your thoughts, you're not backing down. Like, there's nowhere else you can go at that point. And that's kind of the most, I'd say, intimate setting you can kind of get yourself into. I mean, I've done psychedelics, I've done ayahuasca ceremonies, I've done a lot of different like self-healing and or like experiences to try and tune in. And bottom line is, I think the most courageous, brave thing you can do is be alone with yourself and your thoughts. That really is. So that would be the first step. I'd say start tuning in and start trying to become aware of the thoughts that are going on in your mind. And like, you know, Eckhart Tolle is a really beautiful writer who talks about this in his work, as far as like becoming aware and disassociating yourself from the thoughts that are going on in your head, because it's not one and the same, actually. So it's becoming aware of those stories that you're telling yourself. And when you shift that mindset of yours, that's when things in your life really significantly start to shift around you as well.
Yeah. I would say too, to anyone who's maybe newer on the conscious path as well, is the tuning into how do I feel can really be like a just in the moment of anything that you're doing, you know, of like, even in the middle of cooking dinner, of like, how do I feel right now? And just taking that internal beat, or you're out for dinner with a friend. How do I feel right now?
I actually did a podcast all like about this question, as far as not so much how you feel, but it kind of goes one and the same, because in any given state that you're in, you can tap into the present moment. Like, anyone has access to this. Doesn't matter what you're doing, where you are, who you're with. You can always tap into your present state of being. And in that moment, you can ask yourself, is whatever, and I did this podcast around like how to make big decisions in your life, but it completely applies to what we're talking about right now, because in any given situation, you can get still, get in the present moment, even if it's for like 1 minute, and just go, hey, is this making me feel expansive? And is this uplifting me? Is this making me feel higher? Or the opposite? Am I feeling, you know, like something is weighing me down? Am I feeling like low vibes? And a perfect example, and I'll just say this because I feel like it would resonate with the people who are watching right now. Think about a person in your life. Whenever you're around them, they literally, like, you feel lighter, you feel brighter, you feel like so uplifted. Like, I feel like you're like that when I'm talking to you, Kat. Like, you and I are like vibing off of one another. We're happy. We're like just like going on this beautiful flow together. And then there's other people, and I'm not even joking, you're around them for even like a minute, and it's like an energy vampire. They suck you energetically, emotionally, mentally dry. Like, you're exhausted. And so you got to start getting comfortable with just becoming aware of those situations that are going to make you feel uplifted, energized. And to me, that's how you start to recognize how you're living in alignment. Like, when you have more and more and more of those moments where you're constantly feeling like, okay, cool, I feel brighter, I feel lighter, I feel expansive, I feel like so limitless. Like, those are the moments when you're truly living in alignment. So the second part of what I would suggest to people is start becoming aware of the times that you feel your best. And by best, I mean, do you feel happy? Do you genuinely have that sense of joy? Do you lose track of time? That's another big one. You know, like, does everything else kind of fade and you're really just being in this beautiful childlike state of bliss. And then the opposite, you have to become aware of times when you don't feel good, when you feel like drained, when you feel like, and I catch myself now more than ever, I'm hyperized with it. So like if I'm even doing something for work, I know that there's certain tasks that literally I could spend 10 minutes doing them. And I feel like I literally just want to take a nap. I'm so bored. I'm so drained. I'm so like lethargic. And then there's other times when I'm in creation mode, when I'm really vibing in the flow of like just what I'm doing, and I could do it for hours.
Yeah. So starting with that awareness for people.
Oh yeah. Awareness is number one. Awareness is not, and I'm not saying this is an easy concept. This has taken me literally years to develop. But I think, again, with anything, it's baby steps. Like just start to tune in, even if it's for, you know, a moment here, a moment there, because over time you train your brain. Like you really do train your brain to get into the habit of recognizing those moments.
And I want to add to that, because that's how I live my life too. It's all based on feeling. It's like, does this feel right?
Yes.
Like my logical mind doesn't play as much of a role as energy does and feeling does. And that served me very, very well. And anytime the logical mind tries to create its own path, it doesn't create what I want. I'm like, fuck, I knew that. I knew it didn't feel right. But I had just the other day, I've had multiple people recently reaching out to me for business opportunities and collaboration opportunities. And I am in the past have been such a yes person, because I'm just like, yes, I'll do that. Yep. I'll go over. Yeah. I'm like, yes, I'll go over here. Yes, I'll create that with you. Yep. I'll do. Yep. And lately it's been that I'm just tuning in and going, it's not even necessarily that it's like a feeling, but does this excite me?
Yeah.
Like, do I hear that opportunity and go like, that's a fuck yes for me? Like that is a whole body, like tingling, lit up. Yes, let's do it. And it was interesting because just in the last couple of days, I've been using that process when this would come up and going, this is not a hell yes in my body. So it's a no. Like, so then it's a no. And I think that if we're living in a scarcity mindset, and I mean this, I'm saying this in terms of business opportunities, but it could be partners, it could be business opportunities, it could be friendships, it could be anything. When we're in that scarcity mindset of like, oh, I've got to say yes to this, or I've got to do this because there's not enough. But actually in the name of what you're talking about in the detox and the creating space to bring in what's new, it's like no, and saying no to these things, we actually create space for what we do want to come in. But that can be a scary moment, because it's like, oh, is this like gonna be the golden ticket that I need? It's like, no, your body tells you, your body tells you. And I'll tell you, it felt so good just being like, no, that actually doesn't feel aligned, or reworking it a bit in like,
totally.
Yeah, but just like no, it wasn't a fuck yes in my body, so it's gonna be a no. It's gonna be a no. And just letting people deal with that in however they need to deal with it. If it's gonna upset them or if they're gonna feel rejected, but just that self-honoring. And I truly believe that it gives people to actually permission, if they can tune in and go, oh, like I'm allowed to say no to the things that don't really spark me up and are my path of highest excitement as well. I think we hit on some really, really powerful pieces within that.
Oh, yes, girl. Oh, my goodness. There are so many golden nuggets of wisdom you just said there I want to touch on, and I'll try and make it quick. But yeah, definitely. I think it's not always a matter of like, sometimes there are decisions. I'm all for not living in mediocre. Like, I want the magic. Like, I want that magic. So I think it's not just a matter of, sometimes there are times in your life where it's not going to be like a heck no. And it's not going to be so like, horrible, but you're living in safety, and safety is not where you elevate, And
mediocrity, you said that was a good word.
Mediocrity, like I don't want mediocre. There's enough things in life. The saying goes like, there's enough things in life, whether it's love, whether it's your job, whether it's your health, like whatever the case may be. I don't want mediocre. I don't want to settle. Settling to me is like death. Like that literally is like death, right? If you're not progressing, if you're not constantly evolving, if you're not, being expansive in the different areas of your life, like, what are you doing? Like, life is meant for us to grow, to learn, to expand, to like blossom and bloom and fly. And, you know, and so I think
it's not everybody that's living in, or that's even desire. I don't know if it's people don't desire excellence or they don't believe it's possible, but there is almost an element of separation in choosing joy, love, success, excitement, and excellence over mediocrity, because then it's like you leave behind anyone who's comfortable in mediocrity.
Yeah. And that's where I go back to the whole detox. Like, I honestly, there's so many elements that are important in life as far as detoxifying, but I have to go back to I think one of the most important is who you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, that to me is, especially when we're talking intimate relationships, like if you're in any sort of toxic relationship, whether it's your partner, your business associates, your family, unfortunately, sometimes, and you know, like those are not easy situations to be in order to evolve, because you've developed a history, you've developed even a persona around those people, and you literally have to shed that. Now, there are going to be cases where some people are going to be supportive, but there's times when they're not going to be, and you have to make peace with, in order to actually evolve into that best version of yourself, you're going to have to let go of some of those people, because whether it's a mindset or people, your history does not determine your destiny. You do.
Yeah.
You do in this moment right now and here. So if the people who are in your life right now are not aligned with that future you, who's a more evolved you, either they need to get on that train with you, or you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And I mean, family's one thing. If it's a partner or friends, it's still tough, or even associates. And I've done podcasts on this about creating boundaries or having difficult conversations and trying to like bring people on board. But sometimes you do have to let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a philosophy too that I live by. Like, I trust when someone's leaving my life.
Oh, yes.
Like when it's kind of those like, something's happening that I can feel is like the external world is something stirring up and this person is going away.
Yes.
And I used to try and control that. Like I used to try and like, I gotta stop this from happening, or what do I have to change to keep this person around? And this is, I mean, with friendships, with romantic relationships. And now it's like it's that solid trust. It's that solid, like, am I in alignment with my highest? Okay, that's my work to clean up that. If there's anything to clean up energetically, am I in alignment with my highest? And if I'm truly following what I feel the universe, my soul, everything in me is guiding me to embody and be, and people are leaving, then it's for me, it's a deep, I trust. I am in alignment. I trust that this relationship is not congruent with the actualization of Kat being her highest self. And that takes courage to let people go, and I've literally had friends be like, I'm out of here. I'm like, hey, goodbye. I love you. I'm sorry you're having this reaction. And I know that I'm in alignment, and that's all I can do. And I would say to anybody listening to this who might be in that period of like, they're awakening, they're going through a transition, they're going through this, is trust that space you create. If you're consciously detoxing and letting things go, letting people go, letting mindsets go, or if things are naturally kind of falling away and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Trust it, because in that interim, in that space that is being created, new things come. It has to. The universe works like a vacuum. It fills spaces. And it's like, it's just that period of unknown, and trusting that it is going to be filled. New people are going to come into your life. New partners are going to come into your life. If it's family, either they'll shift or new love will fill that space. And that can be such a scary place for people. And I truly say that from having lived it. And I know you have too, of like trust that when that's happening, or when you're consciously choosing that, doing that, it's gonna, like, new people are gonna come, new opportunities are gonna come that are even bigger, even better than what could come in when that space is filled with toxicity.
Absolutely, Kat. I 100% agree. And I like to use the metaphor of a garden. You have to weed your garden in order to make space for new flowers to blossom. And those flowers can be, like you said, job opportunities. It could be people. It could be, you know, different things that come into your life, like different blessings. And I go back to also just being grateful for the process, because this is how we learn. This is how we grow. Transition in life is not always easy, but it is absolutely necessary for the evolution of your spirit. And I have also, one thing that's really helped me get through these constant like changes in life is being grateful for everything and having the mindset that everything's happening for me rather than to me. Because when you're in that to state of going, well, this happened to me, or this, you know, this person did this to me, and you're living like a victim. When you're in victimhood, you're either a victor. That's one thing my dad always says too, like, bless his heart and soul. I love my father. He's like, you're either a victim or a victor. It's one or the other. So are you going to be the master of your life? Are you going to take personal responsibility and power and then step into that? Or are you going to play a victim for your life and constantly have the world, quote unquote, blaming you? And like, one of the books that actually got me on this trajectory of self-development was The Celestine Prophecy. I'm not sure if you've ever read it, but there's 4 kind of archetypes in that book. And I remember being, 17 or 18 years old reading this. Both my parents, my mom and dad, are both really into psychology and like self-development and spirituality. And I don't even remember which one recommended it. One of them did. But basically I read this book, and literally in my mind, I could picture one of these archetypes being a victim. And I could start to picture people in my life already who were living in victimhood. And I noticed the pattern that the same people were never getting ahead. They never were progressing because they were so stuck in, well, this happened to me, poor. And that's what he called that one, poor me. That's what that like archetype was called. And I'm not saying that there's a time or the compassion towards things that have happened to you. There are so many things that happen to people that are just so sad and honestly make my heart feel so sad and so sympathetic. I mean, on a daily basis, I have friends that are dealing with things, or even myself, that I go through things where, you know, you have to have that feel towards them in a very sympathetic way or empathetic way. But I'm talking about the people that constantly seem to always have like problems or drama or things happen, and they're living in this victimhood. That's another form of scarcity in itself. And when you finally take personal responsibility for all that's happening to you, that's when you can take true ownership, true power, and really step into, you know what? I'm looking at everything that happens to me, bad or good, that it's happening for the greater good of me. And the only way that I can evolve as a soul is if I actually allow that to be the process.
Yeah, I was going to say it's evolving into the spiritual context and the spiritual perspective, that even when we perceive things as like, oh, fuck, what's happening to me, or why is this happening? That there always is a greater evolution to the soul that is occurring in those moments if we lean into it, if we choose that perspective. And I think that that's powerful for people to hear, not just don't be a victim, but to understand that in time it will make sense if you have the courage to lean into what is the higher picture of this in the moment, maybe negative experience that's happening to me, that I can transmute it and transcend the victim perspective to see it in the higher context. I actually talk a lot about this in my book, because that was how I turned my tragedy and my story into the work I do now. And it's like, it's that the ability to elevate into that higher soul perspective. But I think that's really valuable for people to hear, that it's like there is a greater kind of cosmic orchestration that we cannot see in the moment to when something negative is happening. And when we can trust that and hold that and remember that, then we can get through those challenges more peacefully, I believe.
Oh, Mandy, I want to say one last thing, because you said that so
Sure.
eloquently, and it's only because of so much that the journey that I had, especially last year in 2019 and now coming to 2020. I think one of the things that we never have vocalized, except for the word truth, but you need to be radically honest with yourself in order to even have that journey happen. Like, it has taken me such an immense amount of radical honesty in order to grow in my life. And it's those moments where I have to lean into what you're saying. You have to lean into the discomfort and be radically honest that, to a certain degree, and this happened to me last year specifically, there was a situation where I had to let someone in my life go, and it was a very toxic relationship, and I had to be radically honest. There was a certain degree in which internally I needed to work on my own self-worth. Otherwise, that situation, I wouldn't have allowed that to happen or come into my life. So again, it's like, unless there's radical honesty, though, all progress starts by telling the truth.
Yeah.
That's a fundamental key in progressing in your life. So the conversation has to start within. There has to be the awareness, but you have to be willing to be radically honest. Because if you're not honest with yourself, you can't expect positive change to happen.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you for sharing your stories and how you've integrated everything you talked about today into your own personal experience. Where can people, well, I'll just say for anyone, if y'all are on a conscious path and you need assistance, reach out to either of us. We both facilitate transformational work and coach and run events and help people in this inner self-awareness. So if you're on that journey, sometimes it's hard to see what's in the frame when you're inside of it. There are places to support, and either of us would be happy to talk with you about what that would look like to work with either one of us. Tell people where they can find you and what they can look forward to in your world coming up.
Thanks so much for asking. That's kind of you to ask, and appreciate it. Right now, I'm really excited to be really going full force with my YouTube this year. So I'm really looking forward to creating a lot of video content. That'll be really focused, as you described in the beginning of this episode. It'll be really focused around fitness and food and health and wellness, a lot of fulfillment and motivation. So if you're looking to tune into some really high vibes video content, that'll be up on my YouTube. Everywhere on my social media, again, I really try to just create transformational, positive, and also just real content. So Mandy J. Ross, I'm pretty much everywhere. That's even my website. And then as far as, I mean, there's a lot of things in the works on my end. I'm really focused just on, again, getting back really to my roots of journalism and media this year. So aligning with different entities that will allow me to do that. And as far as coaching, I mean, just stay tuned on my social media. There's always things going on like coaching and workshops and aligning with different opportunities that come up. So it's really just a matter of staying tuned to news that I put out there. Yeah.
Beautiful. So it's Mandy J. Ross on all the platforms. You guys, if you're live or you're catching the replay, you can follow Mandy on all those platforms for some high vibe content, inspiration, and transformational tools. Mandy, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being here and sharing your light with the world in all the ways that you do.
Aw, thank you so much, Kat. I just want to say a blessing of gratitude to you, and my heart feels happier being here with you in this moment.
Oh, thank you.
I just want to send it to everyone watching. I just want to send y'all so much love and light.
Beautiful. Thank you. Bye, guys. See you next week. Tune in next week live, 6:30 p.m. PST, right here on Facebook for episode 30, where we will have another special featured guest. Have a great night.